shining the light on the lunatics on the left. They mock him.
I just think you're dumb.
Hillary's book blamed him.
A prominent Trump supporter, Aubrey Shines, produced an online video attacking me.
John Oliver mocks him, calls him a nut job from Tampa. Trump thanked him. So he continues to shine the light.
We can do better, we will do better, but we'll only make it happen if you are informed. That's what we're here to do.
America shines when you're connected to Aubrey Shines. Here's your host, Aubrey Shines.
Hello and welcome to America Shines. I'm your host, Aubrey Shines. Before information gets handed down to people, it goes through a filtration system referred to as the media companies. Magazines, social media, and television news networks are all examples of mediums that conglomerates use to relay messages. But are they right, and are they the right messages? Are we being spoon-fed ideas and philosophies that not always intended for our good? Arguably, most businesses and entertainment corporations in the modern age have become media companies to some degree. Being the barrier between the message and the knowledge they're allowed to consume puts us at a huge disadvantage. But it also gives power to these individuals. Media companies are responsible for informing, and they are compensated, by the way, very well for it. But do they bear any responsibility for what they put out? I think we all have our suspicions about bigger picture concerning the media, but we are afraid to ask because we will be labeled as kooks, or what I call conspiracy theorists. But take a look at this.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about the trouble and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
the sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish fake stories that simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 See, today in America, we think we have an unlimited variety of entertainment and media options right at our fingertips. But it's all a lie. This illusion of choice was fabricated by the media elites. In the early 90s, before the mainstream adoption of the internet and the media landscape used to be simple and straightforward. But today, 6 media giants actually control a whopping 90% of what we read, watch, and listen to. Let's face it. We're being fed what the media oligarchs want us to eat. When it comes to our media consumption, by the way, I could not make up what you just saw. That wasn't stage. Those were actual separate companies all saying the same thing. We want to welcome an expert in all things media, Mr. Dan Gainor. Dan is the president of Free Speech. I think he's vice president of Free Speech America and Business for the Media Research Center. Love that organization. He's been with the organization for more than 10 years and heads up both the MRC business and cultural departments. He's a veteran editor with more than 3 decades of experience in media. Welcome, Dan. I can't wait to dive into this here. When I had the producers to put that together, it was because, Dan, this is something I've seen where you go from station to station, and for a long period of time, I actually thought, wait a minute, something is wrong. there almost seems to be a symphony here where they're all saying the same thing, all reading from the same tea leaf, or am I missing something?
Well, yes, you're right. That specific case, I might cut them a little slack. A lot of these stations are affiliated. And so one person writes that and they all just read it for their local markets, read by the same people. But yes, the macro point that we are all being fed the same thing is pretty obvious, because all you got to do is look at the Hunter Biden scandal. You know, you had a major media outlet, been around for a couple hundred years, report a story right before the election back on October 14th of 2020. And they came out with talking about the Hunter Biden laptop and the emails, and the big tech, Facebook and Twitter, aligned to restrict access to the story. And traditionally, the way the media have handled censorship in their world is they've instead promoted whatever story was being censored by the powers that be. Pentagon Papers is a great example. They worked together to promote that in case it got censored. Instead, they helped censor it. They loved to censor it because it was not about promoting journalism. It was about activism. They wanted to get their guy elected. So yes, the macro point is really, really true.
You know, and it just concerns me though, Dan, because even though I got you, I get it. If one umbrella, there's, X amount of companies under it, of course, you're going to have one major guy, girl, or team that's going to produce it. I get them all saying the same thing, Dan. But when I look at various companies, and again, CNN, NBC, whole different parenting there, all of a sudden, they're literally saying the exact same words. And I think about this, Dan, 37 years ago, 50 companies controlled for what we know as mainstream media and in various outlets, of course. But now, Dan, there's only 6. And of those 6 corporations, they're controlling the whole thing. We're talking Disney, CBS, Viacom, Comcast, AT&T, and one other that just kind of slips my mind there. But 6 companies, how can we get something ethical, Dan, out of that if we're all looking at the same paper, taking a different test?
Well, I mean, it's even worse than that, because even the companies that are separate, the Washington Post is separate, the New York Times is separate, they still operate from the same group think. The idea that journalists, are neutral on issues. We're seeing right now with the war in Ukraine, we're seeing, overwhelming media support for going after Russia, which, I've got Ukrainian American family members. I'm okay with that. But what you don't see is how the media are downplaying genocide in China, which you would think, okay, we're going to say nations doing bad things, we're going to be consistent. No, they're not consistent because, well, let's see, Disney, ABC, they are corporately in bed with China. NBC, they are corporately in bed with China. So you don't get the same kind of reality. You get a thorough bias. So instead of saying, hey, there are 2 major villains on the world stage, Russia and China, and maybe we should react to them both the same way. No, on one hand, they say we should, silence Russia. On the other hand, they work in concert to cover the Olympics in China and downplay the genocide of the Uyghur Muslims.
And we're going to jump right back in here, but I think what's sad to me, and maybe I'm aging, Dan, myself here just a little bit. I just remember when you could tune in. And again, I understand this. Everyone has the right to his or her own opinion. That's fine. But at the end of the day, I'm not interested necessarily in my opinion or your opinion. Just give me the data. I just believe some kind of miraculous way that I really do have the ability to kind of extrapolate what's truth and what's not truth. I can do some of my own research. We're just not given that shot anymore. And when I see that type of what I call one strand feeding, I think it's problematic. It's simply because everyone doesn't respond the same way. And I think if there was some integrity there, it would happen. We're coming right back with Dan. You don't want to miss this.
Cry of freedom, the Union forever, hurrah, boys, hurrah.
Down with the traitor.